All right, lovely people. So this morning we are going to be talking through, or afternoon, I guess, if you're watching this in the afternoon, we're going to be talking through these multiple choice questions that go along with the Faulkner passage, also known as the ice hockey passage. So, yesterday you learned some of my multiple choice strategies, and so I hope that maybe as you looked back over these questions, you at least tried to put some of them into play. If you didn't with this ice hockey passage, hopefully the Saul passage, the one about Lord Cardigan, you were able to finish up those questions having some tools to approach the passage and questions with that you didn't before. One thing that I didn't put on there because it's not really a strategy for while you're taking the test, but as you look at questions and as we go over questions, if you see a term or an adjective, normally just vocabulary that you're unfamiliar with, there's always going to be several words on each passage that you probably haven't come across yet. Because as a person with an English degree, there are several words that I come across the first time I see these passages that I think, what on earth? Because some of them are written in the 1800s. So obviously there's going to be some really old school language. Anyway, as you come across vocabulary that you don't know, especially if I tell you, hey, this is a pretty significant word, you might want to start a list just of new words, kind of a vocabulary list for you to learn. It's not essential, but it could help you. So in this first question, there's actually one key word that can make the difference between getting the right answer or not. So this first question asks you, the passage describes the responses of, and probably a lot of you said B, a cynical observer. If you knew the word cynical, though, you might not have chosen B. So cynical is a good word to know. It's pretty common. It's a good tone word. Cynical just means like negative to the point of almost being bitter about something. You don't have any positivity in approaching a situation. So B is actually not the correct answer. And the correct answer then is D, a first-time spectator. Hey Harrison, can you please stop making noise? Thank you. That's my 4-year-old is making noises just to make noise. So anyway, yeah, this is absolutely the response of an observer of this ice hockey game, but he's not a cynical observer. He's just a first-time observer. And so he is not like negative or resentful. He's confused at first, doesn't really know what to make of it, but he's very fascinated by it. So D is a better answer than B. Something also that I have access to that you probably did not is I get to see nationwide the amount of people who got this question right, who got every question right, or each, I guess, question right. So this is one of the harder questions, this first one, and I think it's because of the word cynical. A lot of people put B, and anyway, this one, only 54% of people nationwide got it correct. So if you missed it, you're in good company. Moving on to the second question. Throughout the passage, the speaker uses which of the following most often? So this is just a simple rhetorical strategy knowledge question. It's a level 1. If you're familiar with that labeling, just point to the passage and see. If you were an active reader while you went through this passage and you were labeling things, this would be pretty easy because I know that there are several similes that I noticed. Harrison, please stop. Thank you. The correct answer on this one is E, simile and metaphor. So just looking back at the passage, you can see that they're comparing the ice to a human being tired, feeling resigned. So that's kind of personification or metaphor. And then we also say that it looks like the mirror simulating the ice in the Christmas store window. So just in that first paragraph, there are 2 examples of simile or metaphor. Some terms, there's some good terms to write on your list if you don't know those terms and the other options. The second question was one of the easier ones. 85% of people nationwide got that one correct. So number 3, in the passage, one goal of the speaker is to. So this is almost like a purpose question for the overall passage. And the correct answer is C, discover meaning in apparent confusion. That one was pretty easy as well. 70% of people nationwide got that one correct. Moving to the 4th question. In the first paragraph, the ice is described with adjectives that seem to. So there's one term in here that I want to make sure you know. This term, aesthetic. Aesthetic just means basically the physical appearance of something. So when you talk about something's aesthetic quality, you're talking about how pleasing is it to the eye. That's a very AP word. It's very common to see that kind of a word on this test. So if you didn't know it already, go ahead and put that in your memory bank. That is not really the description of the ice. It is talking about the way it looks, but more so, it's giving it like human characteristics. It's giving it feelings and emotions almost, because it's saying that it looks tired and that kind of thing. So C is the better answer than B. This one was a little bit more difficult. 68% of people nationwide got it correct. Number 5. Okay, let's talk about these Roman numeral questions. Of course, people kind of hate these questions. And the reason why is because they're complicated. They take longer. Because really they're like 3 questions in one. But let me tell you something, a way to approach these questions. All they are is true or false. They're true or false questions. You have to go through for every Roman numeral and say, okay, is this first statement true? Does the first paragraph establish the scene for the actions described? Yep. So we're going to put a T. And then for the second one, T for true. Does it convey a mood that contrasts with the rest of the passage? Well, it's kind of talking about the ice being tired or resigned, and then the rest of the passage is kind of crazy and chaotic and lots of movement. So I absolutely think that the mood contrasts. So I'm going to say T there. And then the third Roman numeral, it establishes the speaker's attitude towards subjects described later on. It's not really talking about the speaker's attitude. So because of that, it's more like the attitude of the ice, the appearance of the ice. So I'm going to say false for that. And that leads us to C being the correct answer. So this one was fairly easy according to the amount of people nationwide that got it correct. So 87% of people got this one right. But again, with Roman numeral questions, think of them as true or false. Don't get overwhelmed by them. They do take up a little bit more time, though, than what you'd like to give them. All right, for number 6, the antecedents for it, and all these different lines. This question is kind of obnoxious because you got to look back for 3 different things. Will you please stop? Thank you. But you really need to know this term right here. You need to know what an antecedent is. This is a VIP word for the AP test. I have never seen an AP test that did not ask at least like 1 or 2 questions about an antecedent. This is the one grammatical thing that they're going to ask you about for sure. An antecedent is just the noun that the pronoun refers back to. So if I said, Harrison, Whitman, and I are going to go to town later, and we have to go to the post office. So we is a pronoun, and the antecedents that we refers back to are Harrison, Whitman, and I. So again, you need to know that word. Knowing what that word means, the correct answer is A. If you go back to those lines and look, that's what the pronouns are referring back to. Number 7, the use of sentences beginning with then in lines 11, 15, and 25. You remember that parallel structure in the passage? Did you mark it? That's one of the things that I marked. It was kind of a touchstone that helps you like focus on what's happening, brings your focus back. Because, man, Faulkner likes these really long and rambling sentences. That's his style of writing. So anything that he can give you to bring a little bit of order to his rambling writing is a welcome change for the reader. Usually you can get lost in his phrases and adjectives and how he piles things on. So those thens, starting off the sentences, has which of the following effects? What do we know that parallel structure does? If you know that, this makes this question easier. So the correct answer here is B. It provides a rhetorical parallelism that emphasizes the changes in the scene and in the speaker's reaction. So these other options here, C, I could see why you might think like, hey, it's focusing the reader's attention, because that is something that parallel structure does. So C is one that's kind of tricky. But really, that's the only one that would make sense, B or C. So hopefully most of you guys got B. But this one was one that only 57% of people nationwide got correct. So again, you're in good company if you missed it. Number 8, the activity described in the second paragraph is best characterized as moving from, so focusing on the second paragraph alone, the best answer here is A. It goes from disorder to order back to disorder. Some people miss this because they don't see it going back to disorder. But it's that very last line that shows it going back to disorder. It says that this beautiful design, basically bulging with motion and speed, begins to disintegrate and dissolve again. If I didn't say that one already, or if I didn't say it already, that was another one that lots of people missed. So only 55% of people got that one right. Moving to number 9. This one was one of the easier questions. What's following in the third paragraph about the descriptions of Richard and Jeffrey? Which of the following is true about those descriptions? So jargon is a word that you need to know. That's a very common term. Slang, like for a profession, basically vocabulary specific to a profession. There's not a lot of hockey jargon. So the best answer here is E. They mix adjectives that have positive and negative connotations. Okay. Calls it a glittering, fatal, alien quality. So very like strange and like fascinating words, especially put together like that. And then they say that Jeffrian, where am I at here? Has an agile, ruthless, precocious. He is agile, ruthless, and precocious boy. So again, you need to know what those words mean. If you knew what the words meant, then that would be a fairly easy question. Number 10. This one was a fairly easy one as well. The quality of Richard that the author seeks to evoke in the third paragraph is probably his B, uncanny, dangerous swiftness. That one, about 81% of people got that one right. Number 11, in lines 34 through 39, the speaker implies that Laprade is a... Okay, this one was a little bit more challenging. Only about 58% of people got this one right. The correct answer is A. He's a talented but aging player who must husband his resources. This word husband, obviously you guys all know it as like the partner to a wife, right? But as a verb, when you husband something, it means that you are a like careful steward of that thing. You're like, you are carefully measuring out exactly what you need, basically. So he's only using what he needs because he knows that it's a limited amount of energy and of like stamina and all that kind of stuff. There's some good vocabulary words here in these options to check out. Okay, so the next page, number 12. Number 12 was the hardest one. According to the amount of people who got it right, or wrong actually, nationwide, only 35% of people got this one correct. In the sentence, but he had time, fresh passion, and fresh triumph. Okay, let me just read that sentence because... But he had time too now, or rather time had him, and what remained was no longer expendable, that recklessly, heedlessly, successfully. Not enough of it left now to buy fresh passion and fresh triumph with. So the reason why this is difficult is because of that's between expendable and recklessly. It's an old-fashioned way to phrase it, so it really kind of throws you off. But expendable is what these adverbs are modifying. And again, it's just old school phrasing. So that was a very difficult question. Number 13, in lines 49 through 50, the reference to the European rapier, which is a sword, or the frontier pistol, serves which of the following purposes? Let's check this out. Okay, this one was fairly easy. 76% of people got it right. The correct answer is D. It suggests that violence is allied with skill and daring. This whole discussion of like the guys using their skate blades and their hockey things, and they're not just cavemen brutes. Please stop. They're not just cavemen beating each other over the head with rocks. They're using tools. So it's like this macho, like, man, they're so strong. Look, their muscles. But it's not just a bunch of dumb jocks. They have skill. They have developed. It's very it's a very macho description and an observation of what's happening in this hockey game. Number 14, in the sentence, he had noticed. Let's read this. He had noticed how many women were among the spectators, and for just a moment he thought that perhaps this was why. That here actual male blood could flow, not from the crude impact of a heavier fist, like I said, not just the big caveman biceps, but from the rapid and delicate stroke of weapons, which like the European rapier or the frontier pistol reduced mere size and brawn to its proper perspective, to the passion and the will. So he is thinking that women appreciate will and passion more than they do size and brawn. So there's the assumption of the speaker. Some women do. Probably most women, but who knows. This one was a little bit more difficult, but not too terribly bad. 67% of people got this one right. Number 15, we're so close to being done, you guys. In the passage, one prominent characteristic of the speaker's style is the use of, oh, whoops, I just added use of there. Okay, so this one, does he use carefully balanced compound sentences? Oh no. Does he use short, simple sentences in groups of 2s and 3s? Oh, how we wish. That's not our friend Faulkner. Does he string together several adjectives and adverbs? Yes, so that's a possibility. Does he use the first person to give a sense of immediacy? Nope. First person is when you use I and we. Not at all. Does he use relative paucity of qualifying adjectives? Paucity means like a small amount, so very little qualifying adjectives. No, absolutely not. C is the best answer here. And then that takes us to number 16, last question. The qualities of the hockey game that most impress the speaker are its. This one was a little challenging, but I hope you got it right. Movement and finesse. The word finesse is kind of a like unusual word, but finesse is just like grace and skill, I guess. Graceful skill, and that's absolutely what he is watching. I could see where you might say spontaneity. Spontaneity is like unexpectedness and like rapid, something happening in a rapid way, but opportunism doesn't really work there. So this is just a vocab question. I mean, if you missed it, it's probably because of vocabulary. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and post this video, and then we can go over the answers for the Saul passage as well.